When your 5-year-old daughter asks why mommy is crying on the phone in the car outside someone else's house, you realize your life has changed forever. My name was Tom and I worked as a photojournalist in Philadelphia. My girlfriend Megan was an independent film director. We'd been together for 8 years, though we never officially married. Both of us considered a stamp in a passport just a formality. We had a daughter, Emma, who had just started kindergarten. It all began with that conversation in the car. Emma told me about it in the evening when I came home from another assignment covering the city council. She was sitting on the floor with her toys and suddenly said, "Daddy, why does mommy meet with Uncle Kent?" My heart stopped. Kent. I knew that name. Megan occasionally mentioned him as an ex-boyfriend she dated in college. He worked as an events videographer for weddings and corporate functions. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I asked as calmly as possible. "Well, she always drives to see him. And they kiss." I saw through the car window when we arrived. My hands were shaking. I tried to stay calm in front of my daughter, but inside everything was burning. Megan had said she was taking Emma to her friend Sandra's place, who was supposedly helping her with editing her new film. That evening when Megan came home, I didn't let on. She was cheerful, talking about her day. I smiled and nodded, but my brain was already working at full capacity. I needed proof. The next morning when Megan was in the shower, I took her phone. I knew the password, Emma's birthday. I opened Telegram, found the chat with me, and sent my real-time geolocation to myself. Then I deleted the message from her side. Now I could track where she was going. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched the dot on the map. Megan said she was going to meetings with producers, to casting calls, to friends' houses. In reality, she was driving to the same address in the Philadelphia suburbs. It was a small townhouse. I drove there once when her car was parked outside. I photographed another vehicle's license plate, checked it through my journalistic contacts. Kent Morrison, 33 years old, videographer. But that was just the beginning. I started digging deeper. I checked the bank accounts. Ours were joint, but I noticed regular cash withdrawals. Small amounts but consistent. $300, $400 every 2 weeks. She said it was for film production. I hired a private accountant through an acquaintance who looked at our finances from a different angle. It turned out Megan had opened a separate account 6 months ago. She was transferring part of the money from joint projects we did together. I photographed, she edited videos for advertising campaigns. That was my money too. But the worst was yet to come. One evening I overheard her phone conversation in the bathroom. She thought I was asleep. She was talking to Kent about being pregnant. 7 weeks. And it definitely wasn't mine. We'd barely touched each other for the last 3 months. She was saying that everything is complicated, that she needs time. I sat on the bed, clenching my fists. The pain was transforming into cold rage. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a new life, taking part of our shared future with her. The next day I started taking action. First, I transferred the lion's share of my savings to an offshore account through a financial consultant I'd once photographed for a business magazine. He helped make everything legal, but in a way that Megan couldn't find out about. This was my fee for work, my personal funds that I'd been saving for years. Then I talked to Emma. Carefully, without details. I asked if she'd seen mommy with anyone else besides Uncle Kent. My daughter thought for a moment and said, "Well, there was another uncle once. In mommy's car." They were laughing. "Anyone else?" "That lady with mommy at that party. They were hugging for a long time too." I felt sick. 2 other lovers. Or maybe more. I started checking Megan's phone more carefully. She didn't delete old messages in additional messengers. There was correspondence with a man named David. He was a cameraman on one of her films. Intimate photos, meeting plans. And there was correspondence with a woman, Laura, an artist. They met in hotels when Megan supposedly went to film festivals. This had all been going on for at least a year. Maybe longer. I collected all the evidence. Screenshots, photographs, account statements. I saved copies in the cloud on a flash drive, sent them to my email. Then I hired a lawyer, experienced, predatory, who specialized in complex divorce cases. Another important step. I found out that Megan was planning a big shoot in Atlanta. It was her new project, for which she'd received a grant. She was supposed to go there for 2 weeks. I looked at her correspondence. She was planning to take Kent with her. They'd booked a hotel. Everything was organized as a romantic escape disguised as work. I didn't say anything. I just waited. When Megan went to Atlanta, I stayed with Emma. She was surprised why I wasn't at work, but I explained I'd taken vacation time. We spent time together, went to the park, baked cookies, watched cartoons. I tried to give her as much warmth as possible, understanding that soon everything would change. A week later I received a message from Megan. She wrote that she missed us, that filming was going well. She added several photos from the set. But I knew the truth. Through geolocation I could see they barely left the hotel. It was at this moment I made my next move. I sent Megan a message, "We need to talk. Very serious. Call back when you can." She called an hour later, anxious. "What happened? Is Emma okay?" "Emma's fine. But we need to talk about our relationship. When you get back." "Tom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "We'll discuss everything in person. Just come back as you planned." She arrived 3 days later. She was tense, trying to read my mood. I remained cold but polite. That evening, when Emma fell asleep at Grandma's, I'd asked my mother to take our daughter for the night. We sat in the kitchen. I pulled out a folder of documents and placed it on the table. "What's this?" Megan asked. "Open it." She unfolded the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of her correspondence, photos near Kent's house, statements about the secret bank account. Her face went white. "Tom, don't say anything. Just listen." I told her everything I knew. About Kent, about David, about Laura. About the money she was hiding. About the pregnancy she was planning to gift me as our child. Megan cried, tried to justify herself, said everything was complicated, that she was confused, that she didn't know what she wanted. "You knew enough to steal our shared money," I said. "You knew enough to drive our daughter to your lover and let her see you kissing. Emma shouldn't have. Emma shouldn't have been in this situation at all." I raised my voice but immediately restrained myself. "You know what kills me the most? Not the cheating. Not the lies. But that you dragged our child into this." She asked me why Mommy was crying in the car near someone else's house. A 5-year-old girl shouldn't be asking such questions. Megan sobbed louder. I didn't move from my spot. "I've filed for divorce," I said. "Tomorrow you'll receive a summons. We'll sell the house and divide it equally. Emma will live with me, you'll have visitation rights. Your money from the secret account stays with you. That's yours. But my savings, which I made separately, are also mine. Everything fair and legal. Tom, please. You wanted a life with Kent? You'll get it. But not at my expense." The following months were difficult. Megan tried to fight for different terms, but the evidence was ironclad. The lawyers quickly reached an agreement. We sold the house, divided everything equally as I'd promised. I bought a small apartment near the school where Emma would go. Megan rented a place closer to the city center. The most interesting part began after everything was officially completed. Megan actually started living with Kent. They announced the pregnancy to friends and relatives, presented it as a new chapter in life. But I continued to observe, not gloatingly but simply through mutual acquaintances. Kent turned out not to be the romantic hero Megan thought he was. He had a habit of drinking too much beer in the evenings. He was jealous. They started arguing within a month of living together. Megan was writing to our mutual friend Emma. I found out from her because Emma was shocked by what Megan had done to me and maintained contact, that Kent was accusing her of affairs with others, though Megan herself seemed to have ended relationships with David and Laura. But the tastiest part was different. David, that cameraman she'd also had an affair with, turned out to be Kent's friend. They'd once worked together on weddings. And when David found out that Megan was now with Kent, he came to their home and made a scene. He told Kent about their affair. Kent was devastated. Not because he was upset about the betrayal, but because it turned out Megan had been having an affair with his friend while promising Kent a new life. They stayed together, but the atmosphere between them became toxic. Kent started suspecting Megan of everything. He checked her phone, demanded reports on every move. She tried to maintain the appearance of a happy couple on social media, but everyone who knew them personally saw the truth. I focused on Emma. My daughter was a smart girl, and though it was hard for her to accept the divorce, she understood that Daddy was always there. We created new traditions: Friday night pizza and movie nights, Saturday trips to museums, Sunday pancake breakfasts. Slowly but surely life was getting back on track. This was the moment when I understood, there was no going back. But life had more surprises in store. About 2 months after Megan moved in with Kent, I started noticing something odd. Emma would come back from visits to her mother's place and mention things that didn't quite add up. "Mommy was crying again," she'd say. Or, "Uncle Kent was yelling about money." I didn't press for details. I never wanted to put Emma in the middle of their mess. But curiosity got the better of me. Through a mutual friend who still worked in the film industry, I learned that Megan's big grant project, the one she'd supposedly been working on, had fallen through. The funding organization had discovered discrepancies in how she'd reported expenses. She'd claimed costs for equipment and crew that were inflated or never actually purchased. The grant was revoked, and she had to return a significant portion of the money. This was interesting because I remembered those joint advertising projects we'd done together. The ones where she'd siphoned off money into her secret account. I pulled up my records and did some calculations. The amounts didn't match what she'd reported to our clients either. She'd been padding invoices, charging clients for my work at higher rates and pocketing the difference. I thought it could get no worse, but I called my lawyer. Can she get in legal trouble for this? I asked. Potentially, he said. But it would require the clients to file complaints, or the grant organization to pursue it criminally. Most likely they'll just blacklist her in the industry. That's exactly what happened. Word spread quickly in Philadelphia's tight-knit film community. Megan's reputation tanked. Projects dried up. She'd burned bridges with producers, crew members, and funding sources. Kent's videography business wasn't enough to support them both, especially with a baby on the way. I heard through the grapevine that they'd moved to a cheaper apartment. That Kent had taken on extra weekend gigs, working 16-hour days. That Megan was applying for jobs at production companies but kept getting rejected once they checked her references. And then it got worse. Megan gave birth to a boy. Kent insisted on naming him after his father, Robert. She'd agreed, though she dreamed of a different name. This was another crack in their relationship. Emma sometimes saw her younger brother when she visited her mother. She'd tell me it was always tense there. Uncle Kent yells at Mommy, she'd say. I didn't interfere. This was their life, their choice. The baby wasn't an easy one. Robert had colic, cried constantly. Megan was exhausted, getting no sleep. Kent, working all those hours, wasn't much help. Their arguments became louder, more frequent. Neighbors complained. The landlord threatened eviction. One night, about 3 months after Robert was born, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Laura, the artist Megan had been involved with. Tom? I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from Sandra. What's this about? I asked cautiously. Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. It's about Megan. Look, I know you two split up, and I know I was part of why. I'm not calling to apologize, that's between you and her. But I thought you should know something. I'm listening. Megan called me last week. She was drunk, crying. She said she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. That she'd ruined everything. She wanted to know if we could get back together. I was silent for a moment. What did you tell her? I told her no. I'm engaged now, Tom. To someone wonderful. Someone honest. I was stupid to get involved with Megan when she was with you, and I regret it. But I'm not going back to that chaos. I thought you should know where her head's at. Thanks for telling me, I said. I appreciate it. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a while. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt nothing at all. Megan had chosen this path. She'd burned down everything we'd built, and now she was living in the ashes. And what was I supposed to feel? Pity? Satisfaction? I didn't know. The months rolled on. I heard from Emma that Uncle Kent had started drinking more. That he'd come home late smelling like beer. That Mommy and Uncle Kent fought about money all the time. Robert was 6 months old now, and the strain of parenthood combined with financial stress was tearing them apart. My life, meanwhile, was stabilizing beautifully. I'd gotten that new job at a major publication. My photo essays on Philadelphia's changing neighborhoods had won a regional journalism award. Emma was thriving in first grade, making friends, bringing home art projects she was proud of. And Rachel, the art teacher I'd been seeing, she'd become a real part of our lives. Not as a replacement mother, but as a genuine friend to Emma and a partner to me. We'd moved slowly, deliberately, building something real on a foundation of honesty. One Saturday morning, Emma came running into the kitchen where Rachel and I were making breakfast. Daddy, guess what? What, sweetheart? Miss Johnson said my painting is going to be in the school art show. Rachel beamed. That's the one we worked on together last week, right? The sunset over the park? Yes. With all the colors. I picked Emma up and spun her around. That's amazing, Em. We'll definitely be there for the show. This was my life now. Simple moments. Genuine happiness. No lies, no hidden agendas, no checking phones or tracking locations. Meanwhile, Megan's situation continued to deteriorate. I didn't go looking for information, but in a city like Philadelphia, word travels. David, the cameraman she'd been involved with, had apparently started dating someone new, Kent's cousin. When the cousin found out about David and Megan's past affair, she told Kent. It was another betrayal he had to digest, another reminder that Megan had lied to him too, not just to me. The ending of this story surprised even me. Kent eventually kicked Megan out. Not permanently, they'd worked out some kind of arrangement where she stayed with her parents a few nights a week to give each other space. But everyone knew what it really meant. Their relationship was dying a slow death. Megan's parents, who I'd always gotten along with, called me one evening. Her father, Robert Sr., sounded tired. "Tom, I know this is awkward, but I wanted to apologize for what Megan did to you. And to Emma." "You don't need to apologize for her choices," I said. "I know. But as her father, I feel like I should have. I don't know. Raised her better. Taught her about consequences. She's an adult. She made her decisions. She's living with us now. Did you know?" Kent finally had enough. "He's keeping the baby, going for primary custody. Says Megan's too unstable." That actually surprised me. "Is she?" "I think she's depressed. She won't leave her room most days. Won't eat. We're trying to get her to see a therapist, but she refuses." After I hung up, I thought about that for a long time. Was this revenge? Had I set out to destroy Megan's life? No. I'd set out to protect myself and my daughter. I'd set out to not be taken advantage of. Everything that happened after that, the consequences of her choices, those were hers to own. What happened after that was worth hearing. The custody battle between Megan and Kent was ugly. Both of them hired cheap lawyers they could barely afford. The court ordered psychological evaluations, parenting classes, mediation. Emma, thankfully, was spared most of it since she was fully in my custody and Megan had agreed to that in our settlement. But Robert, the baby, he became a pawn. Kent argued that Megan was financially irresponsible and emotionally unstable. Megan argued that Kent had anger issues and drank too much. Both of them were probably right. In the end, they got joint custody, alternating weeks. Neither of them was happy with the arrangement. Neither of them had wanted to compromise. But the court decided it was in Robert's best interest to have both parents in his life. My mother, who'd always liked Megan, asked me once if I felt guilty. "Guilty about what?" I asked. "About how things turned out for her." "Mom, I didn't do anything to her. I protected myself from what she was doing to me. There's a difference." "I know, honey. I remember when you two were happy. When Emma was born. You seemed like such a perfect family. We seemed that way because I didn't know she was lying. The perfect family was an illusion she created." "You're right. I just hate seeing anyone suffer, even someone who made terrible choices." I understood what she meant. But I also understood something else. Megan's suffering wasn't my responsibility to fix. I'd moved on. I built a new life. And that life was good. About a year and a half after our separation, I ran into Kent at a coffee shop. He was alone, looked exhausted, had bags under his eyes. "Tom," he said, surprised. "Kent," I replied neutrally. "Look, man, I owe you an apology. I didn't say anything. I knew she was with you. When we started up again. She told me you guys were basically over, that you were just staying together for Emma. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. And now I know she's a liar. She lied to you, she lied to me, she probably lied to those other people she was seeing. I don't even know if Robert is mine." That caught me off guard. "You haven't done a paternity test?" "I'm afraid to. What if he's not? But also, what if he is? Am I supposed to spend the rest of my life tied to someone who makes me miserable?" I bought him a coffee. We sat down. I didn't owe him anything, but I also understood his pain. "You want my advice?" I asked. "Sure. Get the paternity test. Know the truth. Then make decisions based on reality, not fear. If he's yours, be the best father you can be. If he's not, you'll figure out what's right. But living in uncertainty is its own kind of hell." Did you ever love her? Megan? I thought about that. I loved who I thought she was. The person she showed me. But that person wasn't real. So did I love her? I don't think I ever really knew her. Kent nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. He got the paternity test. Robert was his. He told me later through a text message. "At least now I know," he wrote. "Thanks for the advice." Megan and Kent stayed together on and off for another year. Breaking up, getting back together, breaking up again. Emma would come home from visits with stories that made my heart ache. Not for Megan, but for the instability my daughter witnessed during those visits. Eventually, I went back to court to request modified visitation. Not to take away Megan's rights, but to establish more structured, supervised visits at a family center when Robert was with Kent. My lawyer argued that the toxic environment and constant upheaval wasn't healthy for Emma. The judge agreed. Megan fought it, of course. But her lawyer was overworked and underprepared. My documentation was thorough. Emma's therapist, yes, I'd gotten her into therapy early on, testified that the visits were causing anxiety. The modification was granted. You won't guess how this all ends. 2 years after our separation, Megan and Kent finally split for good. She moved to Baltimore trying to start fresh. Found work as a production assistant on commercials, a significant step down from her director aspirations, but steady income. Kent stayed in Philadelphia with Robert, working his events videography business. Megan asked if she could see Emma more regularly now that she was in a better place. I agreed to supervise day visits, but nothing overnight until Emma was comfortable with it. My daughter, now 7, was smart enough to make her own choices about the relationship with her mother. "Do you miss Mommy?" I asked her once. "Sometimes," Emma said. "I miss the Mommy from before. From when I was little. But that Mommy isn't there anymore. Kids see things so clearly sometimes." As for me, Rachel and I got engaged. Emma was the flower girl at our small wedding. My mother cried happy tears. Rachel's parents welcomed Emma as a granddaughter. We were building something real, something honest. The day of the wedding, I got a text from an unknown number. "Congratulations. I hope you're happy. I'm sorry for everything." I showed it to Rachel. "Do you want to respond?" she asked. "No," I said. "That chapter is closed." She kissed me. Good answer. Life moved forward. Emma continued to see Megan once or twice a month, always supervised, always in neutral locations. The relationship was cordial but distant. Megan sent birthday gifts and Christmas presents. She FaceTimed occasionally. But she wasn't a primary part of Emma's life, and that was a consequence of her own choices. Kent eventually met someone new too, a woman who worked at a catering company he frequently hired for events. Someone stable, someone kind. Robert seemed happy when Emma saw him, which was rare but occasionally arranged. And Megan? From what I heard through the grapevine, she was still with Kent. They'd gotten back together after she moved back from Baltimore when the job there didn't work out. They'd finally gotten married in a small courthouse ceremony, no big celebration, just the two of them and Robert. Whether it was love or convenience or fear of being alone, I didn't know and didn't care to speculate. It was the calmest day before the storm. That's how I described the time before Emma told me about Kent. Everything seemed fine on the surface, but underneath, the foundation was already cracking. But here's what I learned through all of this. Revenge isn't about destroying someone else. Real revenge, the kind that matters, is building a life so good that their absence improves it. It's being happy when they expected you to be broken. It's thriving when they thought you'd barely survive. My reaction shocked even her friends. They'd expected me to fall apart, to beg Megan to come back, to fight for the relationship. Instead, I protected my assets, documented everything, and walked away with my dignity intact. Some of them reached out to me later, apologizing for doubting me, saying they didn't know the full story. I didn't gloat. I didn't post vindictive social media updates. I just lived my life, loved my daughter, built my career, and found someone who valued honesty as much as I did. After this moment, her life was never the same. Megan had burned every bridge, professional, personal, familial. She'd lost the trust of her parents, who'd had to watch her self-destruct. She'd lost the respect of her industry peers. She'd lost a partner who'd loved her and a daughter who'd adored her. Was I sad about that? Sometimes. Not for her sake but for Emma's. Every child deserves to have 2 stable, loving parents. But I couldn't control Megan's choices. I could only control my own. Emma grew up knowing that her father would always be there. That promises meant something. That love wasn't just a word but a series of actions, day after day, year after year. Those were the lessons that mattered. One day when Emma was 10, she asked me about the divorce. "Daddy, why did you and Mommy break up?" I'd known this conversation was coming. Rachel and I had discussed how to handle it. "Because sometimes people make choices that hurt the people they love," I said. "And when that happens, the person who got hurt has to make a choice too, to stay in a situation that's not healthy, or to leave and build something better." "Did Mommy hurt you?" "Yes, she did." "Do you still love her?" "I love the good memories we made together. I love that she gave me you. But no, I don't love who she became." "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, sweetheart. Always." That was enough. She went back to her homework, satisfied with the answer. Years passed. Emma became a teenager, then graduated high school. She decided to go to college in Boston, studying art history, Rachel's influence. Megan came to the graduation, sat in the back, didn't cause a scene. Kent and Robert were there too. We all coexisted politely for Emma's sake. At the graduation party at our house, Emma gave a speech thanking her family. She thanked me for being her rock. She thanked Rachel for being her mentor and friend. She mentioned her mother briefly, thanked her for bringing her into the world. It was diplomatic, careful, the thanks you give someone who's biologically connected to you but not truly present in your life. I caught Megan's eye across the room. She looked older, tired, sad. But she smiled and I smiled back. Not with warmth, but not with hostility either. Just acknowledgement. We'd both moved on in our own ways. As I watched Emma dance with her friends, Rachel beside me holding my hand, I thought about that moment in the kitchen 8 years ago. When I'd laid out all the evidence and told Megan we were done. I'd been terrified then, of being alone, of co-parenting, of rebuilding everything. But I'd done it. We'd done it. And the life we'd built was infinitely better than the lie we'd been living. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things. If I wish I'd tried to work it out, gone to couples therapy, given Megan another chance. The answer is always no. Because here's what I know. You can't fix someone who doesn't think they're broken. You can't trust someone who's shown you repeatedly that they'll lie. And you can't build a future with someone who's already planning a different future without you. Megan made her choices. She chose the excitement of affairs over the steadiness of partnership. She chose deception over honesty. She chose herself over everyone else, including our daughter. And I chose differently. I chose truth even when it was painful. I chose my daughter's well-being over my own comfort. I chose to build a life based on integrity rather than illusion. That's not revenge. That's justice. That's healing. That's moving forward. Megan continued her life with Kent. According to mutual friends, they were still together, still struggling, still dealing with the consequences of how their relationship began. Robert was a teenager now, dealing with his own issues, aware that his parents' relationship was born from infidelity and deception. Emma maintained minimal contact with her mother, obligatory texts on holidays, occasional visits when she was home from college. There was no animosity, but there was no closeness either. The relationship had become what Megan's choices had made it. Distant, superficial, cautious. And me? I had everything I'd hoped for when I started over. Career I loved. A wife who was my true partner. A daughter who knew she was valued and loved unconditionally. A life built on truth. Sometimes, when I'm covering a story about broken families or betrayal or the consequences of choices, I think about my own story. About how close I came to staying, to believing Megan when she inevitably would have tried to explain away the pregnancy, to accepting a life built on lies. But I didn't stay. I left. And that made all the difference. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.